Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Board of Directors of Oxford Preparatory Academy, January 17th, 2019. Open session at 5 o'clock p.m., closed session at 5:10 p.m., and returning to open session at 7 o'clock p.m. The meeting location is Oxford Preparatory Academy, South Orange County Campus, 23000 Via Santa Maria, Mission Viejo, California, and teleconference location is Oxford Preparatory Academy, Saddleback Valley Campus, 22882 Lumont Drive, Lake Forest, California. Bigger. The public, including the public attending a teleconference location, are invited to address the board regarding the items listed on the agenda. Comments on an agenda item will be accepted during consideration of that item or prior to consideration of the item in the case of a closed session item. Please turn in comment cards to the board secretary prior to the item on which you wish to speak. Start with call to order at 5:16 p.m. Roll call, Mary Campos.
Here.
Joseph Haney, present. Raymond Jackson.
Present.
And Priscilla Trichet is not able to attend today. Next item on the agenda is the flag salute. And Jace, you're going to lead us? All right. Stage is yours.
Anyone have a mic?
Yours?
Face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jace. All right. Next item is D, approval of agenda for OPA regular meeting of the Board of Directors on January 17th, 2018. It is recommended that the board approve the agenda for the OPA regular board meeting on January 17th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve the agenda for the board meeting January 17th, 2019.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This motion passes unanimously. We now move to closed session at 5:18 p.m. return to open session at 7:39 p.m. Closed session should have been announced to have covered the following items. A, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9D2, two matters. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one matter. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9D1, one matter. Oxford Preparatory Academy versus EdLighten Learning Solutions. There was no action taken in closed session. Item 4 on the agenda is communications, oral communications, non-agenda items. The public, including the public attending the teleconference location, are invited to address the board regarding items not listed on the agenda. No individual presentation shall be for more than 3 minutes, and the total time for this purpose shall not exceed 15 minutes. Ordinarily, board members will not respond to presentations and no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following a presentation. Please turn your comment card into the board secretary prior to this agenda item. Do we have any comment cards? All right. So that takes us to for information communications. We'll start with the director's report. Joe Marks.
Welcome back to the board, our community from winter break. This week we received a letter from Capistrano Unified School District, and it's very pleasing news. It's about our MOU and what we need to do next as we pursue the pathway towards charter renewal. We were issued a letter. It's been a long road for our community. I know that. I want to thank everybody for remaining on the journey with us. I've asked Mr. Haney to read the letter, and I'll turn over the mic to him.
All right. I'll borrow your copy. Sure. I'm just going to let the letter speak for itself. Letter is dated January 16th, 2018. And this comes from Heidi Crowley, our coordinator of charter schools and strategic initiatives. And it says, Dear Ms. Marks, as of December 18, 2018, Oxford Preparatory Academy submitted all required documents for the Memorandum of Understanding that was approved by the Capistrano Unified School District Board of Trustees on July 25, 2018. After meeting with OPA staff and financial team and carefully reviewing all documents, district staff determined that OPA has met all the conditions of the MOU. Please see the attached MOU matrix that documents the submission dates and verification dates of each item on the MOU. Moving forward, the district will follow the protocol established in the MOU and then cites the language in the MOU for moving forward. The letter continues. For the MOU, the following item, Oxford Preparatory Academy Charter School final decision on revocation and authorization to submit renewal petition will be placed on the February 13, 2019 special board meeting agenda. The special meeting on February 13, 2019 is tentatively scheduled for 5:30 p.m. If the board votes to authorize the submission of OPA's renewal petition, the timeline would be as follows. Formal submission of the renewal petition on February 27, 2019 at the regular board meeting during oral communications. Public hearing would be March 27, 2019 during a special board meeting, and the board would vote to renew or non-renew the renewal petition on May 22, 2019. The letter concludes stating, the district appreciates the efforts by OPA to meet the conditions of the MOU. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding the next steps in the MOU process.
So that's very good news indeed for our community. And we thank everybody who's worked so hard to make the improvements, make the adjustments, and stay committed to OPA, especially at the SOC campus, and the deep partnership that we're developing with Capistrano Unified's administration. They've been extremely supportive, very helpful. We realize, again, these items were helping us strengthen our practices, especially with regard to stability and sustainability. And We don't regard them or never saw them as punitive, but really helping us to help ourselves into a very stable position. So stay tuned. We'll bring you more news about charter renewal. We're very excited, and we're moving forward rapidly. Just very pleased to announce that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marks. Next up is OPA Operations Update with David Barley, Operations Consultant.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, congratulations from me to the Executive Director and to the Board with the MOU news and that letter. That really is tremendously exciting for everyone who's been involved for so long working on that. So congratulations. Quick update for the Board. We have completed the move of the administrative office to Orange County, so we're close to both schools now. So we're very happy with that. And
Lee, can you get that microphone a little bit closer to David?
I think it will.
I want to hear his birthday voice in all of its glory.
Thank you. So we are happy with the move of the administrative office to Orange County. We're much closer to the schools. We think the synergies there with communication are going to be tremendous going forward. We're already starting to see that. And so that was a big accomplishment. Additionally, some of the other things that we've been working on in operations is streamlining our processes and practices with regard to accounts payable, purchasing, all the functions that you all are well aware in finance and accounting, and getting our arms around that really over the last month or two. And then in human resources, working through some of the backlog of work there to ensure that we're compliant, working on things such as the 403B program, ensuring that we'll have all the required 1094C and 1095C forms out regarding benefits, W-2s, all the things that are required. So we're coming along and humming along, and I have the staff working on quite a bit right now, and going forward we'll be able to I think get to a point where we can proactively present to the board some proposals of how we want to move forward into the next school year. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes. I have a question, more like a heads up. Is I feel like OPA has been in the past not what I would say the perfect organization when it comes time to making sure all those things that you mentioned before are in order. And so I'm very excited. I'm very excited to hear that it's January and we're talking about and thinking about and making plans today for what happens in March, April, May, June. No surprises. Everybody knows what's happening, happens at the right time. There's no after the fact sort of thing going down. So David, I'm very happy that you're here. I'm very happy that you specifically are doing this, because I know not only do you have a great deal of experience doing this, but you have an acute understanding of OPA's culture and our backstory. And so I think in that framework, I'm super excited about that. So thanks for that update, and I look forward to good things in the months to come.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here contributing. Thank you.
All right. Next up is the technology report with Andrew Lane.
Good evening. I'm happy to report we've been quite busy in the last month. Over the holiday break, we took the opportunity to really strengthen and improve our combined inventory list and inventory maintenance, tracking, serial numbers, asset tags, everything associated with that. We've been taking it seriously. Are quite relieved to finally be caught up and up to date with. We've been quite involved in the office move, and Mr. Marley and we have been coordinating that quite well. Really excited about a lot of the equipment we got out of there, even simple things like extra monitors and keyboards and mice are going to use here on campuses. We took some time over the break and began watching Marie Kondo's new show based on her award-winning book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And it is quite applicable now that we are sifting through a mountain of computer cables and old phones and power supplies and keyboards and mice. And look forward to tidying up around campuses, ever vigilant to secure our computer tablets and laptops, items with precious student data, operational data. Very busy time the last month. I'm quite excited about some of the progress we've made. Happy to address any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question from my son that he asked me to relay. Can I do that? Well, that's my question now. All right. He says that the internet drops out. He fills out a bunch of things. This is what he says. I'm hopeful that's telling me the whole story, but that he fills out the lots of answers on online things, and then he clicks submit, and then it doesn't. Then it says internet not found or something.
Which classroom is he in?
Like what's in the SV?
SV.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know his teacher?
Yes.
I'll connect with you.
Okay.
More information.
Is there? I just wondered if there was is there a bigger thing going on, or
It doesn't seem to be.
does it feel like our internet's pretty good?
It does appear that we have lots of benchmark tests.
Good.
Each of the campuses have their own sort of CASP simulation software to assess whether the students are ready for the smarter balance testing. And there's been a lot of load from various classrooms on those programs.
Got it.
And we've had a couple teachers who have had to have the internet kind of reprogrammed and reset in their room.
Got it.
But we're not aware of any recurring issues. I am happy to report that we're winning the battle against some of the rodents we've had in the attics on campus, literally the rodents on this campus. And some of you may be aware, some of our teachers have been really strained by some of the damage that was done over the summer and in the early fall. We've been working hand in hand with Capistrano Unified and their repair department. Since they own the facility, we in many cases have to go through Capistrano Unified. They were able to do a bunch of repairs in the winter break and really improve the situation we were seeing in the 15, 16, 17. We'll be happy to look at that. So, we'll look into that satellite valley issue. I will get the whole story.
Okay,
one way or
good,
another, whether
good.
he's
Look
telling
forward to
you
it.
or not.
Okay,
I will.
good.
I will sit down with Mr. Jackson Jr.
Okay,
and,
good. Oh, it's going to be an
we
event.
will get the whole story.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions from the board? All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for your time.
It's not on our agenda, but
Oh, and just a sort of parting gift to Andrew. I thought initially when we contracted with his firm, we were talking about setting up backup protocols and what are we doing and what's our standard for. There's some documentation that we felt like what are we doing as far as scanning the network for hostile APs and whatever that is. Is that like a written document that we have, or is that something that? How's that?
We maintain a Google Team Drive with a substantial amount of documentation that can be handed over. We've got admin members that are members of that Google Team Drive, and it has a rich database of our critical passwords, IP addresses, security protocols, things like that, including one of the more important documents, as I mentioned, we've been working on our combined inventory.
Got it. So combined inventory. Now, do we have a document that establishes what our protocols are for those things like we talked about? So
we have many specific documents that address those, whether
those
it's the
protocols?
Wi-Fi network or how we handle printing or how we handle security sweeps and separation between the different virtual VLANs on the network. So yeah, there's quite a bit of documentation in that resource.
Got it. Is that ever something that would be forwarded to us? Joseph, I'm looking at you, brother. Is that ever something that would come to us to review kind of as what's our IT protocol for whatever it is?
we can ask for it.
Well, is that a normal thing?
I think
What do other
ordinarily
schools
it would be
do?
handled at the admin level, but if it's something that the board's concerned about, then we can certainly request it and be comfortable with it when I'm gathering.
So
Based upon the questions you've asked, as well as the ones that Mary's asked in the past, and the
Mhm.
general concern about IT security we've had, that's probably something we would like to see.
yeah, like are there backups, and if so, where are the backups, and who has access to the backups, and how many backups are there, and how far back does it go, and what's the content of the backup, and is there any kind of risky data that is there? Right. I'm thinking specifically of this FBI thing that happened, right, where they had a bunch of data that was just kind of sitting out there that they didn't really need, we didn't even need it, but because we didn't know we had it, kind of thing. So Jill, do you have access to those? Not access, but is that a document that you've reviewed? Your light's off, by the way.
I've seen individual documents, but I haven't accessed them on the drive. So my question is, do I have that access?
You do.
I do. I mean, I know have a lot of access and I've used it from time
Sure.
to time. I want to make sure the specific protocols that we're talking about, I'm able to access as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
I'll
I
review
think-
them and I can forward them to our board members.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not looking to make more work for everybody.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm saying we can look at some of these other organizations that I would classify as incredibly secure and sophisticated who have breaches, and they have it because of some carelessness that happens. And so I just want to be sure that if there's an opportunity for us to ask the question of what data do we have, how vulnerable is it? Do we need it? You know, all those kinds of questions.
So one of the things we did recently in the fall, since
Right.
I've been hired, is we identified that there was at one point a large cache of business operation data being stored on a 11-year-old Windows server out of the Corona office. And that data has since successfully been migrated to the Google platform.
Mhm.
And that server has since been, backups have been handed over to our legal personnel and to the administration, as well as secure wiping the equipment. And we've established Google and the Google Cloud as our primary data source moving forward. This is something we've been doing since August. And I'm very happy to report that the audit trails there, the transparency there are simultaneously incredibly sophisticated and secure, but also accessible to our administrators. So several people in this room have been trained on how to access the Google Vault and go find information proactively when they need that. And several people in this room, including, and there are others who are not in this room, have been trained on how to access the audit logs to see who's been accessing data, who's been running searches, who's been going in, signing in, downloading data, that sort of thing. So we have extremely robust and secure measures in place. Recently, we were reviewing with legal counsel some of the documentation that's in place. You might call it disaster recovery documentation or doomsday documentation, these sorts of robust documents that have our master passwords to things. And we established a protocol with legal counsel on how to secure these documents, how widely or not widely to distribute them, and how to ensure that they're tracked as changes are made over time.
Got it. So it sounds like then we would ask Andrew and his group. Is that right? So we would ask them maybe. And I don't know if that request comes from you or not, but kind of like, what are other schools doing? What questions? What do we not know? What should we be asking that we're not asking? What kind of documentation? I guess I just feel like we should have some sort of IT policy that says, hey, what do we do? What do we keep? How long do we keep it? Why do we keep it? Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Okay.
We have many requirements that require us to store data for 3-year periods, 7-year periods, 5-year periods. Our Google Cloud platform puts us in compliance with those. It's not the only cloud platform that is available out there. However, it is undoubtedly the most widely adopted by education and nonprofit institutions, with something like 93% adoption rate in the K through 12 education sector. The good news is, when I win the lottery tomorrow, or should I be incapacitated, several administrators in this room, several board members in this room have a level of access and familiarity with the tools, the Google Vault tools, to go in and immediately search and find all of our documentation, passwords, and backup and things. And this is something that we've been transparent about since day one, and have had, and continue to have an ongoing conversation about do the right people have access to the folder if you look at the building. I think it's quite appropriate that decision. It's essentially something, we know what the right decision is today, but we know that we need to huddle and constantly reevaluate that and make sure that the right people have access.
Got it. Well, and I don't have any questions about passwords so much, and even architecture for that matter, but more about practices and protocols and, what do we do? What do we endeavor to do? We want to keep data for this long, and here's why. But moreover, for us to be able to answer questions of admin and for parents to say, well, what if they use a Google Chrome device that's connected to this network? What level of protection from bad things are there, or what levels of protection are not there, so that people don't unintentionally rely on us to, filter things, or if we are providing some level of filtering, what level is it? And this is what we do.
It's a very hot topic, especially when we got back to school and parents realized that by bringing their equipment to school, we were actually giving them security software that was going to protect their students even when they went home. And there was a lively conversation back and forth between parent groups and the administration about, isn't it appropriate to perhaps have slightly fewer restrictions after hours, when you're longer in class? Shouldn't we allow students to access their Lego games on the internet once they're home with their device, that they may not be appropriate for them to access here in class? Here. So I'd be happy to present on that at our board. Please, board. I'll work with the administration to find out.
Great. But just to be clear about my request, Jill, it's not necessarily for a presentation so much as it is for, okay, great. Thanks for that.
It's really a review and analysis of what exists.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. And it's not on the agenda, but this is ordinarily where we would have comments from the board. We may deviate a little bit from what's the officially stated. Mr. Jackson, is there anything you'd like to say?
Sure is. I would like to say that this is a super exciting time. We got a lot of good momentum going on here. You see the bow of the ship is turning. Sometimes it starts moving slowly, but I can definitely see it moving across the horizon. And so this is indeed very exciting. So I'd love to hear the positivity in these communications, which is not customary. And I think it's a testament to the team that's in place here now, and in large part to the efforts of folks for the past year to try to get these programs in motion. So this is a very exciting time. I would just like to thank all the parents and the teachers and the students for all their support, all their awesome emails, all their awesome OPA great vibes. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Campos, is there anything you'd like to add?
So I'll echo Mr. Jackson's comments and also add a huge thank you to Jill and Amy and David too in his short time for the countless hours of making sure that the MOU happened and was done correctly and not just thrown together, and really putting the needs of the school and the students ahead of all of your lives. So thank you. A huge thank you.
All right. And I'm just going to add and join the parade of thank yous, but this time I want to add a thank you to the MOU committee. It was very clear to us this past summer that our authorizers wanted the board to have an active role in making sure that we were addressing their concerns. And I appreciate Mr. Jackson and Ms. Campos for stepping up. There's a lot of time that's already put into just showing up to the ordinary and the special meetings that we have as board members, but then take on the responsibility, the oversight, and the execution of the deliverables. I appreciate both of you doing that. I appreciate your working with Jill and with Amy and with David and Lee and getting that done. And I know that we still have to appear before Capistrano, and there is still one last hurdle left, but we wouldn't be in the position we are going into that meeting if it was not for the work of the two of you. And I am there's no depths to describe how much gratitude I have for both of you for what you guys brought to that process. So thank you. All right.
So can I say one more thing?
You may.
So the piece of this that I think we should also add a thank you is thank you to Capo for trusting us and give us the opportunity to show that we were different and we were committed to doing the right thing. So thank you to them as well.
Absolutely. I don't think there's, we asked them when we appeared to trust us and give us one more chance. And I'm thankful that when we appear at the next meeting, we can look at them in the face and tell them that we gave it our best shot. And we appreciate the lifeline that they extended to us. And we hope that we've proven that this is an organization committed to meeting their expectations. All right. Takes us into item 5, consent agenda items. First up, A, approval of minutes from the regular meeting of the OPA Board of Directors. Missing a page here. The agenda packet. Oh, it's just blank. Skipping a page. Okay. So, do I have a motion?
Make motion.
Yeah, I've got to pull it up here.
Regular meeting of the Board of Directors
Of
and it should be
December 3rd,
December 13th,
2018. 18. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This motion passes unanimously. Next item up, B, is classified personnel action report. We have resignation of employee number 504, whose last date of employment was 1/15/19. It is recommended that the board approve consent agenda items and B.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? This motion passes unanimously. Next up, 6 is items scheduled for action board. A, approval of MCOR Services Mesa Energy Systems invoice number 6740 for HVAC upgrades at OPA SOC, totaling $20,356.98 for July 2018. It is recommended that the board approve action agenda item A. Is somebody going to present on this? Give us some background.
This is the second invoice from MCOR Services. We were provided grant funding to help pay for the HVAC upgrades. The amount of this grant funding is second payment for the HVAC services. So again, just to repeat, this is the second of 2 invoices to pay for heating and ventilation upgrades at SOC. We received a grant to spend it to make these upgrades, and we're approving the second payment to MCOR for the work that they did in the summer of 2018.
So we have to motion before we can ask questions, correct?
Yes.
So I motion to approve the MCOR Services invoice number 6740 for SOC upgrades.
A second.
All right. You can now discuss.
So 2 things. One is it's my recollection that the grant 100% pays for this. So this would just be coming out of the grant money, correct? And not any funds.
Correct. That's my understanding
School
as well.
funds, okay.
Yep.
And then the second piece was the total was just over 100,000, and as I recall, the last one we approved was just over 88.
That's
so
right.
this should close us out. We'd be paid for the air conditioning upgrade, correct?
We are complete on this.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'd like to celebrate the fact that we are doing great about not having late payments. We all know my philosophy on that. Thanks for embracing that. And then what do we do to get to the point where invoices that are, I'm looking at this, dated July 2018. When was this work completed? Just recently?
In July of 2018.
July 2018. Okay. So what are we doing to make sure that invoices that are received in July are processed in, a timely fashion, right? I don't see an invoice late fee here. I'm hoping there's not a late fee here. Okay,
No,
great.
no
Thank
late
you
fee.
for that. But what are we doing to make sure that, just from a matching point of view, here we are in January.
Right. So what we're doing, first of all, with the office move, is to ensure that all of our vendors have our correct address. That's been a problem for the organization in the past, where invoices would be sent to the school sites or previous administration office sites, and things weren't updated. So we're doing that two ways, okay? Essentially by email, we're talking to some of our large vendors to make sure they know where to reach us. And then what we do, we're working with XED very closely to ensure that our AP is put in every Tuesday by noon. Lee is working on that with me to ensure that when we receive bills, it gets put into SpinBridge immediately, so that when it's time to approve it by Jill, that we are ready to go and have whatever conversations that we may need to have at that point. So process improvement, setting our practices, and following through on it.
Okay. Good start.
Good start.
Yep. So, so now as a part of that, bills getting paid, we log it. Our vendor policy, practice, protocol type thing that says every vendor gets a welcome letter that says, hi, excited to work with you. This is how we do what we do. You want to get paid, do this. You want to get paid, do that. That we have some sort of document that says, who do you know? How do you know us?
The disclosures.
Yes, the disclosures that say, do you know, I don't know if we are asking, do you even know this person by name? Do you know any of these people by name or anything like that?
The form that we're using, I think actually Jill may have modified it when you got here. I'm not sure, but I had to fill it out.
Okay, good.
I had to disclose, and that's what we send to new vendors. Now, older vendors, I don't know whether they've completed them in the past.
Okay. Well, thanks for asking, but I think it would be a great idea for us to do it to everybody.
I agree with you.
Okay.
We're starting with our new, and then we're working backwards, especially with our heftier contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's where we're starting, and it's an actual vendor packet that includes
Great.
That information.
Yep. And there's a checklist that says, did we receive an indemnification from them and their insurance? So there's some checks that say, unless you have checkbox, and I'm certain that XED has the ability to say, unless you have A, B, and C, you're not going to check. A check won't be released. Just can't do it.
Yeah, licensed COIs when that's required.
Right.
Types of things. And I'll can provide the form to you if you like at some point.
Well, I'm not so much interested. I mean, I don't feel like you have to say, hey, here all this stuff is. I just want to make sure that this stuff is in place. I trust you folks as the experts to do that. I just want to be sure that we have that vendor package in place and we are asking those probing questions, not just saying, just generally, you're here, you're ethical, right? Right. So that we really are doing the extra kind of over the top stuff that says, we do things right here. This is how we do it. And then somehow, and this is a part, kind of a separate ask, is that XED expressed in the very beginning that they have this capacity for us to establish sort of norms about expected dollars, things that fly outside of a statistical moving average or even a trailing average that say, if Mary were a vendor hypothetically, and she bills us on average $3,000 a month, if she bills us $10,000 a month, that should be flagged as a wildly obvious exception and would require some thoughtful inquiry. And so I'd love to see XED step up to that, because I've not seen that yet. It's not dispersing them, but I just love to see that. Right. When we look at the check registers, I want to be able to say, this is odd, this is odd, this is odd, this is odd. Like my eyes can look at it and determine some things, but I know I'm missing.
You have those regular recurring payments that
Right.
happen with certain vendors, utilities, whatever it may be.
Yep.
And then to be able to flag or see if there's a way XED with us can flag for you and for all of us.
Yeah.
This is out of the ordinary.
Landscapers.
What's the reason?
Yep.
Yeah.
We pay landscaper $1,200 a month, and all of a sudden we pay him $8,000.
Right.
Yep. That should scream to everybody.
Makes sense.
Or it should say to us, because we didn't pay him for the last 7 months and now we're catching up, which is a whole nother, thing we'd be interested in. Okay.
Any other comments? All right, so the motion is to approve this payment. It has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This motion passes unanimously. Up next is B, approval of closeout payment totaling $20,639.88 for Wells Fargo Business Elite Card account ending in 1667. It is recommended that the board approve action agenda item B. Maybe given a,
I sure will.
all right.
So I think this is somewhat a continuous issue as we're finding out, and we've been doing some forensics on our own, looking at getting current with all invoices and payments that are due. There have been there has been an outstanding bill to Wells Fargo for our Business Elite card, and the total is significant. It's over $20,000. There's documentation in the packet. Our intention is to have this be a final catch-up payment on this account. And going forward, we are, and I think David just outlined the process, that we have a process so we don't have late payments, so we don't have penalties. And we did a thorough scouring upon our move in terms of every drawer and online, and checking with our vendors to make sure that we're getting caught up this month.
That's right.
Thus, it's a significant amount to pay. We don't want to incur any more late fees ever on anything, but especially on this bill. And it comes before you now to approve.
Do I have a motion to approve this bill?
I'll make a motion while I'm scrolling through here.
Do I have a second?
I'll second so we can ask questions.
Oh, good. Who would like to start?
With slow internet. I'm just kidding, Andrew.
What is the policy for using the cards? I mean, I understand that if, maybe I don't even want to suppose. What is the policy for using an OPA corporate credit card? What is it supposed to be used for? And maybe we start there.
So in general terms, it should be used sparingly for things that cannot be purchased using a purchase order or another, methodology, essentially. That's preferred. It also encourages the organization to plan when it's making its purchases. And we have limits for the current card holders. We've limited the number of card holders compared to what it used to be, to really key administrators. And we are ensuring that, again, we're making sure that the, again, it's really used rarely.
The procedures that surround the use of our debit cards, they are outlined in our fiscal policies, in our most updated fiscal policies. As David said, it's to be used sparingly. And between the fact that was not the practice when this current administration came to OPA, and the fact that the limits on the credit cards were so high, so very high, which we rectified, I think, between both practices, we got to this point. And I would like to say, thirdly, the process of reconciling and getting receipts in a timely manner, the process was poor at best. And now we do have a process once the statement comes out to have our card users provide the backup to help code, and then it's off to
immediately.
Yeah, it's off to XED.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this really is a catch-up situation.
Last summer,
right, where there were multiple card holders and some who are no longer with the organization, and we really limited it now.
do we know what some of these charges are? I mean, some of them are self-explanatory, but if there's a charge for Amazon, how do I know what that's a charge for?
So what we're doing is we have backup for the majority of these. I've spoken to one of the card holders recently to send any of the ones that we don't have backup to get the backup. And otherwise we'll need a lost receipt or some sort of acknowledgement, kind of like an affidavit, or this is what the money was spent for. Okay. So we're kind of putting it together that way.
Yeah, those are easy to access. So for these historic ones from August, we should be able to pull that, match the
Right.
numbers, and be able to confirm. But
And we do have this folder that Lee has of the backup
okay,
for this very large bill.
what percentage do we have of backup?
Pretty large percentage. Not everything, though.
I have a feeling Mr. Jackson and Ms. Campos want to say something, so I'll just sit here and be perplexed.
So looking at the kind of policies, practices, protocols sort of thing. So everybody at my work has a credit card, and we all sign a, credit card policy that says, hey, here's what's expected of you. Part of that is some documentation always. It's important. And so good to hear that we're following up with backup. And it's also, I feel like, important to feed back to them to say, hey, by the way, last year, we have take this backup thing seriously, and about 42% of your charges were backed up, so that's meaningful to them as a development feedback mechanism. And then as well, some of this stuff I see is what looks like totally appropriate purchasing, right? So we give the site leadership the ability in the credit card to deal with exigent circumstances. So if a freezer unit, ice maker kind of thing goes out, food's there, right? Kids are lunches, all that. Get that handle. We got to hit the handle. And then there's other things. It seems like we do a pretty good job of chasing those costs out. Is there a mechanism? I see a lot of these things like T-shirt printing, what it looks like, and banners and all that kind of stuff. Are those things that are non-emergency, or is it normal protocol? I guess what I'm saying is all the routine purchases feels like they should be an out of band. There should be a band for normal purchases. And then things like this should be largely zeros. Nothing's going on here because this is emergency stuff.
Right.
And so is there a mechanism for them to do these more routine purchases that aren't necessarily going on a credit card? Largely because it looks like we're revolving a balance. And when I look at that revolving balance, I see that not only is there a revolving balance and the charges are significant, the finance charges, but when I look at the late fees, they're not per account. Like this isn't Wells Fargo saying, hey, you're late. This is Wells Fargo saying, hey, every one of these credit cards is late, and we're going to charge you a late fee on every one of these credit cards. So this late fee thing seems to be recurring.
It's recurring and cumulative.
Okay.
So, but unless I'm mistaken, and this is the account that was closed down and no longer exists, because I recognize it from previous discussions. So this is in fact closing out what was done to remove it. But moving forward, these accounts don't even exist anymore.
Right.
And we've established new practices, and we have new cards that have much lower set limits with controls to prevent this from happening again.
This is through Wells Fargo,
Right.
Our new accounts for farmers and merchants.
Okay.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
But I know that we have the fiscal policies in place, but it's my understanding that those policies were in effect at the time that these charges were made, which has me concerned that my biggest concern with policies and procedures is that they not be something that you just do so that you can put a check in the box and say you've done it, but you've got to follow it.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing here is that we put in place a fiscal policy for use of the credit cards that's not observed. and that it was just something that's, a box that has been checked to say that we've done it, but we've not done anything about following it. How do we change that now so that we're not getting these credit card statements that are where things are being charged in violation of the policies?
So there's two things. One that Mr. Jackson said, which is how do we get back to cardholders to give them feedback to say these are out of bounds, or what are we learning from this? Okay, right. And then the other is by lowering the credit limits, okay, on a monthly basis on individual card holders. That enables, it kind of changes behavior to say, okay, I can't spend this much because I'll be over my limit. So I need to use the purchase order regular process to do that, to purchase things and to plan on t-shirts and those types of things. And, we do see at the schools that there's some good practices that are going on, and we want to make sure that that's across the board with the card holders. And thankfully we're down to 5 card holders. I think there were many more when you started, right? It's just administrators at this point. 3, I mean. Yeah. We're lowering the limits. Yeah.
I think it was October.
Yeah.
We do see a drop off. The other practice is to have, usually you can go 3, 2, or 1. Again, if it's not being, policies aren't being followed. There's not a time that I'm not available by phone or text if something needs to be purchased.
Which is what we do on a daily basis.
I've been in situations where I'm an administrator and so card holder. So once that feedback goes back and we have that feedback and that occurs again, we can cut the limits or we can cut down on the number of the cards. As I said, there's only 3.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of lowering the limits necessarily, just because, again, if it's a $4,000 repair for a refrigeration unit, or I'm making something up because I don't know, but we trust site leadership explicitly, and I don't feel like there's anything nefarious going on. But at the same time, I feel like the muscle we need to be developing is the feedback muscle and the business practices muscle.
Right.
That says if we're not observing the practices, we're going to feed that back to you fast. You're going to take note of that, and then you're going to get better. Now, I wonder if XED would maybe do some sort of thing where for every time we have a late fee, they contribute some amount of dollars to the Honor Society or something, so that they can have a little skin in the game to make sure that we get this fixed fast. Because there's got to be, I feel like they're at the table, and I feel like there's got to be good reason. But at the same time, I feel like when people have skin in the game, it's going to get better quicker.
People behave differently.
They do behave differently. And so, I feel like these late fees, every one of these late fees should result in, at least got to play hopscotch or come sing a song or do something. I paid a bill late song, maybe, I don't know, but some way of having them show up and be accountable for this, helping them own their piece to making sure bills get received quickly, processed quickly. And if they come here and say, look, we did everything right, but Jill isn't doing her thing, or David's not doing her thing, or whatever, fair enough. But at least we're going to get
Song.
Yeah, a song out of it. Bring a banjo.
Any other comments or questions? It's an obligation we have, so I have to pay it, but I'm all in favor of getting the feedback and policing this, because if there's no accountability for spending on here, we're always going to pay off the credit cards. We're not acting in any sort of fiscally responsible way. And it's just a different route down to get to the same bad destination that this organization's been at in the past. So,
in XED's defense, again, there needs to be skin in the game. I don't think the responsibility was much on the shoulders of XED in this case. We have to supply them with what they need in a timely manner. They do require us to submit receipts and backup documentation for us to pay the bills, and therein lay the problem. as far as they saw it. We know that there were other internal issues too that we've just discussed.
Okay. And then maybe as part of XED's kind of metric, right? So they gave us this cool little dashboard, or they displayed a little dashboard that's kind of cool. What if we had one of those dashboards was credit card debt? I want to know what we're revolving on credit card debt, because I have to tell you that that's just silly to me. So if we're rolling over, this is in July. When I look at these finance charges since July, this is not insignificant. And so it would be nice if, as a part of that thing that we looked
Dashboard,
at, that dashboard that says, hey, here's how much revolving credit card debt you have.
We have a meeting with Brian tomorrow, so we'll bring it up.
That would be super, because I'm pretty sure Joseph would put a quick solution in play if we got that, if we saw that. Okay, great. I'm excited about making this better. And thanks for playing along here, right? Because this isn't just about every month we have a meeting, we talk about the same things. This is about sort of tightening the process up. And this is about putting policies and procedures in place and being able to share accountability and that skin in the game. So this is a philosophical change. I don't want to feel like this is just about one credit card bill. Good, thanks.
That's how we're managing.
I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
All right. So it's recommended that we approve this payment. We have been motioned and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, this motion passes unanimously. Next up is item C, approval of Connor, Fletcher, and Hedenkamp LLP invoice number 13924 for legal services totaling $33,760.77 for the period June 2018 through November 2018. It is recommended that the board approve action agenda item C.
Again, I think we're singing the same song here. This is owed to Connor Fletcher, Hedenkamp LLP, who provide us legal services. This is also a consolidated, part of a consolidated catch-up payment that totals over $104,000. They were gracious in that they agreed that we could pay this off in over 3 months. So this is 1/3 of the $104,000 total that is owed to them for legal services during this time period. We are current with them since December. And again, this is along the same line as finding out what was not processed, cleaning it up, getting it done, and putting processes in place now where we will pay our bill, receive them and pay them in a timely manner. So this is, again, the $33,760.77 is 30% of the total that's been owed for this time period.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve this invoice.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Oh, those with the
Oh,
questions
sorry,
say
sorry,
yes.
Yes, questions.
I just want to make a quick observation. So these sound like some stunningly large numbers, and I just want to sort of put these into context a little bit. So when I look at this in the details of the invoice, they go back to, looks like some in June. So when I divide January back to June, we're really talking about, this isn't $100,000 for what happened since December. This is about $100,000 for what happened since June. Okay, so now we're in the 15,000 a month range or thereabouts. So yeah, feel a lot better about that. All right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, this motion passes unanimously. Next up is D, approval of Young Mini and Core LLP invoice number 58089 for legal services totaling $18,643.07 dated January 9th, 2019. It is recommended that the board approve action agenda item D.
Make a motion.
I second.
Do you want Ms. Marks to give us some background on this?
I think we know what it is, so we know.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Any questions or comments?
The only comment that I have is just, David, I'm assuming you drive some of this with XED, that we are sure that we take this 5% discount that they were awesome about offering us.
Yes.
And they've been great in the past, just so you know, about saying, not the date of invoice necessarily, because they know that sometimes we get out of sync with our board meeting dates. Okay, great. Thank you. And I greatly appreciate their firm doing that, by the way.
All right. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the invoice to Young Mini and Core, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This motion passes by a vote of 3-0. Last up on the agenda for approval is nomination and election to the Office of Treasurer Board of Directors, OPA. It is recommended the board approve action agenda item E. Ms. Marks, can you give us some clarification on what this means? I guess we got to nominate someone.
We do have to nominate, the board has not named a treasurer, an officer who can serve as treasurer for the board. That office has been vacant since
15th.
the 15th. So this is where I'm asking the board to nominate and elect a board member to the office of treasurer.
Okay.
So are there any nominations?
Can I nominate Mary?
You need a motion actually to put this in play.
Do I have a motion to put this into play?
Let's make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This motion to put this into play has been approved. Raymond, Mr. Jackson, it looks like you have a nomination you'd like to
I would love to nominate Miss Campos.
Okay. Now, do we have to second that nomination?
Do we vote on her one at a time? And then Priscilla can vote in abstention.
Okay.
So Director Jackson votes?
Director
Yes.
Jackson votes yes. Director Haney votes yes. Director Campos, do you want to have a say in this matter? Or are you going to pull a MacArthur and say, if nominated, I will not serve?
How about if nominated, I'll serve?
Well, you've been nominated.
Done.
Okay.
This motion passes unanimously, I believe, right?
Well, and then Miss Trichet is in abstention, so.
She's in abstention.
Yep. All right.
All right, this matter passes unanimously. Takes us up to item 7, items scheduled for discussion. There are none, which rolls into item 8, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, this motion passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned at 8:37 p.m. Hey, David.